Nice. Nice. Welcome as you're joining. It's lovely to see you. Um, Welcome in. Um, Change and crisis. Normally when people join, there's this sort of nice burble of conversation when people come in to talk about the weather or something. It seems a little bit reductive when you're running a session on change and crisis to say what's the weather where you are. I'm not quite sure how to do that. But if you're just joining in chat, do tell us what the weather is where you are, or something more meaningful if you would like. But welcome. We're glad you're here. We've got, I think, how many folk registered, Mark? Is it 28 or so folk coming?
Yeah.
I think something like that registered now, obviously. There'll be a few. Is that hello from Colombia? Miriam, this is where we switch and run the session entirely in Spanish or Portuguese. Oh, the Netherlands. Welcome. Welcome. Well, my Dutch is particularly poor, so I'm not able to help with that. But yes, welcome. Glad you're here. So yeah, we had about 28 people sign up. So we'll give it a beat or two to see who joins. And what we'll do is have a bit of hopefully a dialogue to share our experiences and share the kind of the practical approaches that we would take or the approaches we've thought of around recovery. Tim, what are you thinking?
There we go.
There we go. People are joining nicely. I was running a set. Are we recording? Right, we're recording. So I shan't talk about any other sessions that I've run and how well they went. But yeah, Tim, go ahead.
Stephen, I'm just double checking. I'm admitting people as they come, so I only have 8 so
Yeah.
far. Is that right?
Nice. Nice. That's okay.
Okay.
I think
I'm
I
just
think often we see people sign up with enthusiasm and then the
feel better.
reality hits. And
Okay.
so sometimes there's always a bit of a drop off. But I think if we have 8 people joining us, then we've got a good chance to have some nice, rich discussion
Yep.
with the people that do join us.
Yep.
But as you're
Here we
joining,
go. Here we go.
as you're joining, if you want to keep your camera off, that's fine. I trust you. But the hope is that we'll have a session where we'll have an open dialogue and we'll engage together. Um, and we'll probably sort of get started. What do you think? Shall we? Okay,
I'd
let's
like, can we wait one more minute?
Yes.
yeah,
So people
let's
are
wait a minute.
just
Yeah,
coming in.
yep, yep, absolutely. I think we need to run a training course for facilitators on how to manage the liminal conversation in online spaces before meeting starts. Maybe that should be the next Back Week session. Hello, Fasil, welcome. Do you have a trick to managing that liminal conversation before we start the meeting whilst people are arriving?
Is it an organizing team or the
I think
teamwork
this was
called
so.
for them?
I'm always wondering who's going to tell the joke.
Yeah. So we've got a little team looking after you here, Fasil. My name's Stephen Yorkstone. I'm on the board of the IAF. So I'm sort of, uh, it's always really terrifying when you facilitate a bunch of facilitators.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I feel judged. I feel judged, Fasil. But if you're not good, they'll tell you. Luckily, I'm not a CPF, so at least they can't fail me, for
Yeah.
that. So it'll be okay. So should we crack off, Tim, Jimena, Mark?
Sure.
Shall we?
Yeah.
Starting? Well, I'll start introducing myself at least gently. And so, as I say, my name's Stephen Yorkstone. I'm on the board of the IAF, and I met these the three co-presenters here, Jimena, Timothy, and Mark, who are from GFSC, Global Facilitators Serving Communities, at our Volunteers Day event last year. And that went so well, we thought, well, let's see if there's some energy for more of a discussion. So we wanted to have more of a dialogue, more of an open discussion, where we hear a bit more in depth about what GFSC, Global Facilitators Serving Communities, does, but also where we get you to share your experiences. Because for many of us, we will have facilitated communities going through dramatic change, or will be very aware of that. Can I just, if you're speaking, do come off mute. But if you're in an environment where there's noise, if you could pop yourself on mute, that would be lovely. Thank you. So anyway, my name's Steve Yorkstone, here to sort of broadly facilitate. And I work in higher education. I've been writing a little bit about some of the financial challenges, which some see as crises in higher education. But that's quite different from the sort of crises and the change that the team here think through. So, Jimena, Mark, and Tim, would you like to introduce yourselves a little bit? I know we've got a video to talk about the work of GFSC in a minute, but tell us about who you are.
Yeah, okay, I can start. Thank you, Steven. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jimena Conbariza. I am a Colombian facilitator. I live in Colombia, and I am a member, along with Tim and Mark, of the board of directors of GFSC, and I'm happy to share with you what we do and some experiences we have had working with communities through crises, especially natural disasters. That's it. I'm done.
Hello, everyone. It's good morning where I am. I'm in New Mexico in the southwestern U.S. My name is Tim Karpoff. I have been an individual consultant, facilitator, and planner for many years. I have a background with ICA and TOP as that methodology, and I'm pleased to be on the board with Jimena and Mark.
And my name is Mark Pixley. I'm based in Shenzhen in China. And I have my own consultancy, mostly working with corporate groups, but also doing work with some NGOs and educational institutions. And I've been involved in GFSC perhaps last 15, 20 years in different ways. It's a volunteer organization, so each of us sort of finds different ways that we can participate and add to its work. Okay, Stephen?
Thank you. And I can see some folk are starting to introduce themselves in chat. Please do pop yourselves in chat. And it's great to hear that you're joining us from Tanzania. Welcome, Anna Grace. I love that this is genuinely a global thing. We've got people from all around the world, which I find so exciting. So the agenda is a little video to hear more about GFSC, an introduction in a little bit more detail with some of the stories from Tim, Mark, and Jimena about the team, but also about the principles they use and the approaches that they take, if that's fair to say. Then afterwards, we're going to maybe have a chance for some breakout rooms. We'll assess how many people we've got at that time. With 12 folk in the room, maybe we'll have that together. We'll maybe go into breakout rooms, but have a think. I'll check that with you. And then we'll share experiences together and hopefully learn from each other too. As I say, thank you for introducing. Let me share my screen and I'll share this video with you to share a little bit about the work of GFSC.
Welcome to Global Facilitators Serving Communities. GFSC is a nonprofit organization with legal status registered in the United States of America. It is made up of volunteer facilitators from many countries who share their knowledge and experience to support communities in strengthening their resilience and autonomy. GFSC offers training and advice to local leaders to support their communities in the post-crisis or disaster psychosocial recovery process. GFSC offers different services such as training for leaders in facilitation techniques, which allow them to help their communities affected by crises or disasters, accompaniment and mentoring of leaders in their projects to support their communities, virtual public library on facilitation, resilience, post-crisis psychosocial recovery, grief, caregiver care, and other related topics. Since 1986, after natural disasters and other crises, GFSC has trained local leaders in more than 15 countries around the world, including Latin America, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Asia, Indonesia, Korea, Nepal, Philippines, and Taiwan. Oceania, Melbourne, Australia. North America, Mexico, Los Angeles, New Orleans, and New York. The GFSC model, called Crisis, Change, and Choice, is conceptually simple and practical, based on the social learning model developed by UNESCO, and includes the following principles. Change creates crises, and these bring both dangers and opportunities. We always have the freedom to choose our attitude when confronting a crisis. Viktor Frankl. Communities have the capacity to be autonomous and can overcome their crises. Facilitation encourages building, rebuilding, and maintaining resilient and self-reliant communities. GFSC training workshops are aimed at local community leaders such as teachers, health personnel, religious workers, social workers, first responders, government agency personnel, community action board leaders, etc. In this process, leaders learn how to help members of their communities recognize, understand, and accept how crises have affected them, and how to apply effective strategies to manage these crises, how to use leadership styles appropriate to community conditions. Among the results of the training workshops conducted by GFSC, we can mention the training of more than 1,000 local leaders who have facilitated post-crisis psychosocial recovery processes in their communities, the development of resilience, collaboration, and entrepreneurship capacities in many of these communities, the psychosocial recovery of countless individuals and groups who did not have access to specialized mental health services, the communities themselves implementing many joint recovery and reconstruction projects, such as reorganization of temporary shelters and reconstruction of schools and community housing. Please contact us if you are interested in learning more about what we can do together to help your community build resilience and self-reliance.
Super. It's great to see that video and think about the work that GFSC does. But I'd invite you, Tim, to tell us a little bit more. Was it your voice in the video, Tim?
No.
Well, it was not, Steve.
AI voice.
It sounded mellifluous and wonderful. So I thought it might have been you, Tim.
Thank you so much.
It's an AI voice.
Yeah, really. It is. But anyway, thank you, Stephen. Hello again, everyone. I wanted to just emphasize a couple of things. And also, I think each of us is going to start the exchange with a story or a tool that can ground what we're talking about, and then kick off the conversation. So the video laid out a couple of our principles. I just wanted to emphasize them, and then a very quick overview of some of the conceptual approach. So first, I think that when we talk about community resilience after a crisis, we are thinking mostly in terms of community or social resilience as well as individual resilience. A lot of times, psychosocial recovery or humanitarian aid is directed toward individuals. And we'd like to think of it as a social context as well, that communities have the capacity, retain the capacity to recover after a crisis, which is self-identified. You can have organizational crises, although we come out of a natural disaster crisis experience. And as the Frankel quote said, people and communities remain free to choose their future. The other thing is, though, that we believe facilitators have a real role to play. You don't need to be a psychologist or a social worker to really be able to help communities. But we're also thinking that primarily we should think of this assistance being done, facilitators providing assistance to local communities. We don't advocate a lot of people going to other places around the world to rescue communities. We think that if communities retain capacity, then facilitators within communities can help their own communities respond and recover. So let's see. But the thing that impressed me originally about GFSC is that as a professional facilitator and trainer, I realized I needed to have new language, specialized language, and a different kind of set of behaviors to work with people and groups who have experienced crisis. It's not just your normal strategic planning kind of exercise, or even a normal listening exercise that you might conduct with different groups. So I'm going to share my screen and with one slide. And if other people can admit them, let's see, where's my share here? And you will pardon me while I do this. So if the idea behind our concept is that people and groups may experience a crisis, some turbulence in their life, in their individual and collective life. And what happens is that we have certain reactions. This is akin to grief almost. And one set of reactions is a denial in several dimensions that the event even happened. Not only that it happened, but that we are left without any resources. We also react in all aspects of our being. And these might be experienced as abnormal or outside our norm, but that's because you've just experienced something outside of the norm. And we like to make sure that people are aware that you do not need to pathologize or grief. That is, that you need to give people a pill. But there are things that are natural, normal, and sometimes necessary that may seem a little unusual. Anyway, that crisis brings real change. And then almost at the moment of crisis, we retain the ability to choose. And the idea behind the facilitator role is to help people through the different stages of recovery and to look for and help identify effective coping strategies rather than having people spiral into what we would call a secondary crisis. So this, to me, has important effects on my own facilitation style. If you're in a natural disaster, people are concerned about survival. As they get their needs met, usually by heroic efforts of emergency groups, then people are more concerned about emotional and other kinds of security for themselves and their families, maybe. Then we work toward beginning to having more autonomy in our own decision making, finally working together as a community. So the style changes. As a facilitator, you're more directive in the survival and security aspect, and you're more consultative and collaborative as you move toward these other stages. A quick story. I think a lot of you are organizational consultants, so I'm going to use one from a group I was working with, a nonprofit group that works with homeless people, and they lost all their funding. This caused a huge crisis in the organization, and it led to feelings of guilt and shame among the founder and the founders. And so our normal strategic planning turned into a way of talking through the history of the organization. And part of my role, I found, was to not only let people go on, but to actually have a very structured approach that allowed everyone to see from a 360-degree angle all of the perspectives, rather than just wallow in the guilt and shame of the people who thought they'd lost the organization's founding and footing. I'm going to stop right there and turn it over to Jimena and Mark to add to that, or to change what I might have said.
Mark, please. Mark,
You're on
your
mute.
microphone.
It always happens, however many
Yes.
hundreds of meetings you've been in.
I'd like to talk about how I got started with GFSC. I was based in Hong Kong, and Gil, the original founder of GFSC, was coming to Hong Kong and said, "Can you get some people together so we can do a training in facilitating disaster recovery?" And so I started doing that, and most people in Hong Kong just said, "Why do we need this? We don't have disasters in Hong Kong." And then about 3 days before our workshop started, there was a very major earthquake in Taiwan, and so we quickly arranged.
Uh-oh, he froze.
More trainings in Taiwan, and the people that participated in those trainings then went back to down to the earthquake area and was able to start helping in the recovery process there. So that's one little story. The practical piece I want to share was we asked, for practical, we wanted to provide some practical examples, is a process that we call 2 minutes before and 2 minutes after. Part of it is when you're working with people who have gone through a major disaster, a major crisis, it's oftentimes hard for them to sort of deal with the immensity of what has happened. And oftentimes they may have people have died, or their houses may have been destroyed. There, lots of things are going on, and so this is in a very early period. And what we do is, by talking about 2 minutes before and 2 minutes after, is it gives them just a limited amount of time to think about what was going on. How I used this one time, I was down in the Philippines, and they had recently had a typhoon come through and had resulted in quite a lot of disaster. And I was having people gather, and so I had them go through, each person tell me 2 minutes before, 2 minutes after, what were you doing? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? And what happened afterwards? And it allowed each person to talk about that experience without having been overwhelmed by all that was going on, but it was very interesting to hear people talk about how, it was a sunny day and, things were going great. And all of a sudden I noticed the water coming up and I knew something was wrong. But each person sort of told in a different way. But that's one way of helping people. Part of using the facilitation in disaster recovery is helping people as a group talk about what they've been through is very, very healing for the people who have done it and for other people who are doing the listening to it. And oftentimes, one of our emphasis is that not enough, there's not enough space for people to talk what they've been through and to hear what other people have been through and share and help each other. So the whole idea in GFSC is how do we help people help each other? Not by, we respect and honor the psychologists and that sort that will come in, but what we find is they're not going to be around for the whole period of the recovery, which can be, in a major disaster, it's 5 or 10 years before you get, what you can call major recovery, which is that you're not thinking about things every day. That's here. You have a question?
Actually, I also wanted to share a similar story whenever you're done, sir.
I'll finish this one and I'll pass to Amena, and then we'll make a round and give everybody an opportunity to talk.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Well, I would like to highlight some things that Tim and Mark has mentioned before. One is our support for psychosocial recovery is not given in the first weeks after the crisis or disasters. During the first day and weeks, people need psychological emergency support, and people is not ready to think, what are we going to do to go ahead of this crisis? So we train local facilitators to work with their communities around 2 months after the disaster, and maybe 6 months is still a good moment to work with them if they haven't received this kind of support before. Second is I would like to summarize what is useful for people, for communities in these situations. First, to be supported, emotionally supported, to create a safe space where people can share their stories, as Mark mentioned, and to understand what happened to them in the fields of psychological experiences, and to understand that they reacted in a normal way. And it is very, very useful for them to think, so I'm not a weird person, I'm normal, I did what I really could did. People need to understand their experience. People need to get hope. We can go ahead. It's very important, hope, to stimulate hope. People need an appropriate leadership according to the moment they are going through the stage. People need to think, let's go ahead together, not each one, but together using our resources, common resources. People need to identify resources, and people need to plan and to work together with an structured support. And we have seen communities going ahead using this kind of a structure or model. That's it.
Excuse me, Stephen, before we go to Basir, I just wanted to say, when we talk about this natural, normal, and sometimes necessary, what we're referring to is after a crisis, you will find people eating differently. They will eat more or they will eat less. They will sleep differently. They will sleep more or they will sleep less. People will react emotionally differently. They will be crabby. They will laugh too much. They will try to stay away from friends. They will get very cross, very angry easily. People may think that God has left them, or they may go to church 5 times a day. They will do different things, is what we're talking about. And what we're saying is one of the essential points is to recognize this is normal, at least at the initial points. If they're still doing it a year from now, then we got a problem. But a lot of times we recoil. We want to solve their problem for them. And we're saying, no, there's a different way of approaching all of the ways you facilitate when you see people in these situations. So I just wanted to emphasize that. Sorry.
And that's what leads into that crisis change choice model that you started us with, Tim, and the work of GFSC to support facilitators in those communities to lead from within those communities, if I'm right. Yeah, nice.
Right.
Um, we're, the, I'd like us to go into some breakout rooms in a few minutes' time. But before we do that, let's hear from some voices here. In the breakout rooms, just so that you can warm up, the question is going to be about what your experience is, because many of us on this call may have had personal experiences to share too. To think about what crisis in your community you might have facilitated or have liked to facilitate, or approaches you might have come across, maybe similar to the crisis change choice model, or other things you might have thought of to use to help facilitate recovery. So when we get into discussion, that's what we'll be picking up on. But before we do, let's see if there's any responses, any reflections, any experiences you'd like to share first, starting with you, Basir. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Mark, I didn't want to come up like as if I'm stopping you, so I apologize. But it really, what you have said practically hit the bullseye. In Istanbul, up until 99, people thought we don't have any disasters. Civil protection, well, we only need it if there's a World War III. And as you know, in 99, earthquake was very catastrophic. And in the spring of 99, I went to the US and actually even enrolled into ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Course for our international participants. And the medical evacuation training I had there was instrumental. Because when the earthquake hit, we were very fortunate enough to have a solid building, but then the trauma was immense. So all of the neighbors were extremely traumatized, so much that they couldn't go out and even buy a bottle of water. So I guess medical evacuation, disaster response training is as essential as first aid. The more people have that training, it's always the better. And as you have said, perhaps I was not a psychologist, but then I knew how to calm people, and they have a role model to see, and so it hit me on the ground. So I didn't relive the trauma, but it just shows the universality of how there's a universal neglect. So thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, it's important at all levels, which is that immediate work, but then it's also long-term work, and that's how do you keep this work going in a community, even after all the first responders have left, and that sort, and it's still processing it and trying to figure out what happens next. So thank you very much, and I look forward to hearing what other people have shared. We're going to give you a chance to share with each other what you're thinking, what you've experienced, sort of why you come join this session, and have you talk a little bit, and then we'll bring you back to hear more. Stephen?
Nice. So before we do that, does anyone want to come on and share a thought? Here's where I see if I pass that facilitation assessment for holding space with silence. It strikes me it's very different in those crisis circumstances.
Oh,
Anna Grace.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to actually, I was so excited after seeing the title of today's session. I work in the community, and recently I've been working with sorry, and recently I've been working with the communities with crisis that have faced the crisis. One of them is the community that is surrounding the mining area, where the tailing facility was broken, and people lost their houses, their farms, their livelihood, their sense of belonging and everything. So for me, because I have experience of working in the community, but I didn't know how to manage this until when I was summoned to go and rescue the situation, because people were becoming angry and were about to start demonstrating on the road, to take over on the road, and they couldn't listen to the company anymore. And I went there. What I did, I had to learn about the situation and what they have. But yet again, I had to use their methodologies of resolving conflict and listening to each other. It's when the community or family members, they come around bonfire, and they start talking. And there are some kind of rules and regulations that are, conducting. When you're sitting around fire like that, there's those rules that you have to listen to each other. You have to respect someone's opinion. You have to. So I learned from the community the methodologies they use to resolve conflicts like that and listen to each other. So we used that methodology to try to listen to them, what was wrong and what was not happening, or what would they want things to happen differently, and how can we together work on this and move forward. And the results were fantastic. So for me, I call it accidental, but it's because it was from working in the community several times and knowing that they have power, they have ability, they have wisdom on how to resolve their own issues when they are given enough chance, and then they feel that they are being heard. That's what I wanted to share happily in this session.
The thing I wanted to say, Anna Grace, is I think this is a very important point you bring up, in that local cultural practices can really, the idea that helping people to not forget their local cultural practices is an important part of social resilience and community resilience. And so wherever we are at, the three of us are from Colombia, China, and the US. I mean, we know some things, but we can help provide a little conceptual framework. But you, wherever you are, know how to apply it much better. And so we really think that local facilitators are the key to doing this, and local cultural practices.
I would like to add, I agree with Tim. What you have mentioned, Anna Grace, is very important. That's why we don't work directly with communities in other countries, other communities different than ours. We can't accompany the local trained facilitators when they will go to communities, but they know the community and the culture, and we only mentor them because cultural practices and philosophy and traits are very, very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
About we go into some smaller breakout rooms
Do,
to try and deepen this conversation. Tim?
well, do we want to, or do we want to just keep in this committee of the whole?
Yeah, I think the group is not too big. I don't know.
Mm.
Or maybe
Okay.
two groups, only two. I don't know.
Let's try, okay, let's try some groups. We'll go,
Yes. Yeah.
okay, okay.
What do we do?
Groups,
Quick!
groups.
Do
I
you think
understand.
groups? Do you think groups?
I take it
I
back.
quite,
I take it back. Let's
I,
do groups.
I quite
Mark?
like a group because it gives us a chance just to talk a little
Okay, good.
bit, maybe for 5 minutes each, on our own
Good.
experience,
Okay.
whatever that might be. Um, Mark, do you have a thought? Are you
We,
happy with
we're
that?
all set up. We've broken up into three groups, three people. One group has four people. So let me open the rooms and you'll be taken there.
Thank you, Mark. So think about where you're at. What can you share?
Can we go into a group with people?
Yes, you can go. You can choose whichever room you want.
Okay.
As a co-host, you can move in and out.
Nice.
Which, hmm,
Alejandra, let's see.
I'll go with room one. I'll go to
Yeah, that's good. I'll stay
That
here.
is room 3. So I should therefore go into room 4, yes?
That'd be fine. I'll stay here just in case we have
Okay.
anybody come in.
Yeah, sensible. I think it was that. I think that's fine. I think people are talking about things. They're
I
thinking
think
about
it's just
things.
fine. You know, it's a little unprofessional for us as facilitators to go off script there.
That's okay. I think
I
we're
know, I know.
reflexively responding to the needs of the group in the moment, which I think is fine to check in with that. Fine. I was about to say let's have a vote in chat about rooms or not, but never mind.
Oh,
Right, I'll head
no.
just to make it even more complicated. Right, I'm going to head into room 4 and just hang out with there for a second.
Okay, I'll stay here. Let's see if anyone comes in. Welcome back.
So it's that moment when everyone joins from the breakout rooms and thinks, who's going to have to speak first? Now, I'm happy to break the silence because I was really appreciating listening to the stories of the people in the breakout room that I was in. If you would be okay with me doing so, give me a nod if you're in my breakout room, if you would be happy to me to do that. Yeah, okay. So I'll try and summarize what we talked about. And essentially, in our breakout room, we had folk who had lived experience of working with GFSC, the work of GFSC, but also being in natural environments and picking up as I think someone said in chat before we went in, with the likelihood of natural disasters increasing, with experiences of being in flooded contexts where maybe people's houses had been affected, or in earthquake zones. And I think there was a sense of it being hard to know how to help or when to help, or to be able to get the time and space to help. For me as a facilitator, my skills are talking to people on Zoom. Not much use in an earthquake environment, but actually for people with the lived experience in our breakout, they felt there was the opportunity to help, but it was maybe hard to step into that role. Now, I'm going to look at the people in my breakout room. Did I summarize that okay? Is there anything you'd like to add? Jackie, maybe Amy, you want to come in?
Thank you, Stephen. I think I can add something that yeah, in my area we had a lot of earthquake, and the severe earthquake about 2 years ago, and also very serious flooding last September. And as a facilitator around this area, I feel very frustrated and hopeless because we have many skill and we have many methods, and we also have a lot of facilitator get ready, but we don't know how to get involved for those rebuild or taking care of anything which we might help. Yeah. So people probably don't have the awareness that except the social worker or psychologist or the doctors, we still have facilitator can help them. Yeah, to have more efficiency, have more dialogue, and even their village destroyed, they need someone to help them to have a dialogue, to recreate their village, and to move forward together, not still struggle with the conflict. So I feel that, yeah, I know at GFSC quite a long time ago, but I still think that how we can get involved when a disaster happen. And they probably think they don't have the funding because they are not familiar with facilitator. For some facilitator are still have the social responsibility, are willing to do the pro bono to help them, but I feel that there's some gap or some resistance that we don't know how to get involved in the front line. Yeah, I'm complete.
Thank you, Jackie. Jimena, do you want to come in?
Excuse me? No, I wasn't raising my
I
hand.
thought this was a
Sorry.
raised hand, but this was a
Yes,
thinking hand.
sorry.
A thinking hand. Nice. But
Yeah.
thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Jackie. Tim.
Well, I'd like to just say a word about the group I was in. And something Fasil said that was really helpful to me, and I don't know if it may have a connection with what Jackie said, but Fasil, you talked about an organizational crisis, and that you used a familiar technique, or at least familiar to some of us, World Cafe, but you used it in an organized way that had a couple of elements to it. One was that the director supported its use, that there were weekly updates, and that there were multiple sessions so that people could have a sense of reliability and dependence, that they would have a forum that they could, of conversation, they could come back to on a regular basis within the organization. And it seemed to me that those are good ways of applying what is maybe familiar to those of us who are professional facilitators. The other thing I want to say is, we at GFSC, we regard facilitators as anybody helping. So it could be teachers, could be clergy, it could be emergency people, could be doctors. So maybe the opportunity is to help those people see that they are facilitators, not that we as facilitators have to go there and be facilitators. It's almost like helping others to have a sense that what they do can be very facilitative in their local context. So,
no, I don't think that's a thinking hand, Helena. I think that's a talking hand. Over to you.
Yeah, it's important to say we are not giving a complete facilitator training. No.
That's true. Right.
We give them tools and techniques, basic tools and techniques to support the communities in crisis situations. And we have worked with different types of crises. A big amount has been with natural disasters, but we have supported companies in crisis. Gil Branson Lazan, one of our founders and the main creator of the model, he worked in New York after the 9/11 terrorist attack, for example, a very different and hard crisis to face. Anna Grace, would you like to share something about our group, please?
Yeah, I would like to share some of the, actually to build on what Tim said earlier, that as facilitators, the one especially who are working in the communities, we have to carry, we have to have certain kind of behavior. And that kind of behavior is believing that those people in the communities, they are so smart, they have wisdom, and they know they have their ways. They've been living in that communities. They have long experience and they know where the problem is, or maybe sometimes it starts, and how to start resolving. Actually, we have tried in developmental support where we bring things that we think they are, they are very valuable to them, but end up, being wasted. They don't know, they don't want them. They are not aligning to them. So believing that they have the capabilities and capacity to think and resolve their own issues. And for us facilitators is just to try to trigger or asking the right question. How can we move from here? Yeah, so That's the thing that we have to carry, and you just leave behind all your knowledge and PhDs and all the information that you have, but you have to stick to this community that they understand and they know they're ready actually to participate. So for us, carrying this, and when you carry this, you can use other tools like animation. I mentioned it, animation where you train people to go and listen to the community, and they have conversation with the community, and then they come back. How can we come together and resolve this? And then you just need to we call it chokoza in English, but it's trigger some kind of thinking for them to be able to come up with a solution. Thank you very much, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace. I would like to share that we, in our public virtual library, I have I have copied the URL in the chat. We have different articles and books, but there is a special article written by Beatrice Briggs. Some of you can know Beatrice. She has been part of IAF for many years. She has received one of Impact Awards, and Beatrice is from the United States, but lives in Mexico, has lived in Mexico for many years. She attended to one of our trainings after a big earthquake in Mexico in 2017. Miriam and I went to train people there. And after receiving the training, she wrote a beautiful article. What can facilitators do to support communities in crisis? And it's a great summary of what can we do, taking into account our knowledge, our abilities as facilitators. I would recommend it.
I just wanted to say, Anna Grace, I'm so happy to hear what you had to say. I think, again, it's hard to, after I've earned my living doing this stuff and so forth, it's really hard sometimes to think that the community members are smarter than I am.
Yeah.
It's really true.
Yes.
And even and so the other thing I'm saying here is I'm advocating that we look in our own backyards to help rather than go around the world. And even that is hard for me because I am known as a facilitator here in town or around the state. And so if I'm coming, then it looks kind of official. Kind of, and that I have a status of some sort. So if I'm working here, I have to find local groups that I'm to work with rather than just go to. It's really, really important. And kind of subtle in some ways because, but anyway, because I can be an ally, but I cannot be, sometimes I cannot be the direct facilitator. So my training is that who can I partner with? Who will allow me to help partner with them? Kind of thing. It's sometimes very, very hard to work in your local backyard because they know you. They see you coming.
No, Jackie, sorry.
Yes, I agree with Tim. Actually, that's September since the disaster happened, and after 1 month, I saw many conflict between the government and the local residents. So I raised my hand and I post on my Facebook say, well, this time is facilitator to stand out to do some help. So I got some inquiry from the university professors, and because they've been working with the community for a long time, so they invite me to to facilitate the dialogue between the government agency and the local residents. And the other one is to facilitate the local NGOs, because there's so many resources from NGOs, and the NGOs also provide the support to the local residents. So they need to create a platform. So how to work together, they need to have a dialogue. So I was invited to facilitate their dialogue. So this is the way how I
Yes.
can accompany them to help them, not really direct to the residents. As you say, the local people, they are smart. They know where to go, and especially Aboriginal, they have their own culture. I'm non-Aboriginal, so sometimes I feel I know how I can help, but I also respect their way to cooperate. So just stand by and see how we can support. That's it. I'm complete.
On Jackie's point on how to integrate herself much more easily, pre-crisis, way before crisis, during planning, civil military cooperation, and the government should have stakeholder management in which sometimes they don't know, you have to train them to bring in the resources, the expertise, and try to tap into your facilitator network, because they will not be able to draw those resources, those volunteers, but you can. And on the most wonderful word I've heard today is facilitative, Timothy. We are facilitative in the sense that sometimes it could be a security crisis, but sometimes it's a border security crisis. And a lot of the times, provocations may happen in such instances, whether it's hybrid war or people using sectarianism, but also failures of the government. And this is what's been happening in Turkey. Terrible earthquakes happened, and unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to talk about the toxic stuff. You could easily find it on newspapers, but it's just if there was a possibility, the government would have rather preferred to put on more soil and just bury everyone in that city. There was that much of a neglect. And so, in a way, there are all these competing and conflicting things. And I guess we are the voice of both the common sense, but we're also the keepers of the truth, in the sense that we try to take the rational actions and in the interest of the entire humanity, and help facilitate the survivors in the best way possible. But it's also our obligations to ensure that there are some serious hard knocks lessons that are really etched into the memory, but also onto the registry.
Yes.
Lena, do you want to share?
Yeah, something a little bit different. I'm happy to see and to share that GFSC has been invited to work with communities or to train people. Especially, we have been invited by many local facilitators around the world. So facilitators want to do something when they see a crisis in their communities, and it's really good to do it and to train facilitators. And usually they invite teachers and health personnel and other local leaders to attend to the training too. That's all. I'm done.
And I would imagine teachers are very eager to learn from other teachers as to how they are doing, because the transfer of information is instantaneous.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad you're waving at us, Mark. I'm aware that you're probably quite tired from traveling recently, but what's your thought?
Well, one of the things that came to me was that it's nice when we have opportunity to go in and pre-train people, sort of the first responders. And we've had situations where we've been able to do that. But oftentimes the disaster will hit, but that also creates an opportunity that we oftentimes have someone reach out and we'll be able to, help them with training and that sort. And so, the challenge is to, that happened to me with Nepal, that we ended up doing a training program for them after the big disaster there. But, once again, we're not doing it directly. We're working with some local people so that they can go out and be able to, address. And hopefully it's in long-term building up resiliency. I had some other friends that were working with in Japan after disaster there. And one of the stories that I liked a lot, he was doing a series of future centers with different communities. And one of the communities that he'd been working with for a couple of years, at one point came to him and said, listen, this has been very, very helpful. We aren't completely recovered, but we're stabilized enough. So we'd like to work with other communities, and we'd like to have you, we don't need to have you working with us at this point. And so that's one of the things that look forward to is how do you work with the community, but also let them move on.
Thank you, Mark.
I wanted to emphasize, Jackie, I think you were saying this, but the idea that maybe a facilitative role can be helping all these myriad agencies trying to work together to coordinate.
Yes.
Maybe that's the role rather than working at the community level. But I thought that could be a good thing. I was wondering if anybody has had experiences with other frameworks, either in humanitarian relief or in other kinds of psychosocial recovery. Are there other organizations or frameworks? I mean, we can talk more with you offline about our framework more, but are there other organizations or approaches that you've found to be really helpful in navigating crisis? Just asking.
Grace, then Jackie.
Yeah.
Go
ahead, Jackie.
Go ahead. Yeah, you first.
So I currently we are working with a group of women that have been through a lot, including sexual and gender-based violence in their community due to the project which is present there. And then they put the guards who are abusing these women. So we are in the process of compensation and remedy. So the remedy is being provided, and for us, we are providing gender safeguarding. One of the activity including psychosocial support. So because of the cultural background, women were not supposed to talk about sexual violence that happened to them because of stigma, and also they needed to save their families. So they never talked about anything that happened until recently when they heard about the compensation, and then we had to get to the community and encourage them to go for that. So one of the activity that we do, we have group healing to create safe environment or psychological safety for them to be able to talk about what happened, because they've been keeping to them, hiding, but it is eating from them. So being able to talk about the trauma, but also know that it's not only you, but it's a big group that we are going through a lot. And then we do lots of activities, including, briefing, including lots of activities especially for resilience plan, and start encouraging each other to be able to to move forward. So they are like, we have 200 women already. So we meet like 10 or 15, from 10 to 15 group. So in each group, they have they selected some of the, like facilitators or leader that they will be able to communicate with and keep practicing and keep encouraging each other and protecting themselves. Yeah, and so forth. So we call it psychosocial support, including counseling, including breathing, including also, common and creating common understanding, common knowledge of what happened, but also on how to move forward together.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll come to you, Tim, in a second. We're getting a little bit
No.
close to time.
Jackie.
Before we go, I'm going to invite you to share what your most important learning point is, either in chat or possibly on voice. But let's hear from Jackie and maybe Tim before we do that. Do you want to come in, Jackie?
Yeah, since I saw many friends and colleagues in GFSC here, I'm curious that because the climate change and cause a lot of crisis. Do you have any plan to support, prevent, no, the preparation and also after the crisis, how to support? The most important is before the crisis. So now I saw many people, they are worried about the climate change and many unpredictable crises. But most important is how we can build up people's resilience. So do you have any plan or any program and can help people to build up this capacity? Yeah, I'm done. Thank
I
you.
saw Jimena and
Go ahead,
Tim
Jimena.
raise a hand, but also
Yeah.
Amy has a hand up. Who wants to go first, Amy or Jimena?
Amy.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. By the way, I'm quite touched. I heard the words by the lady is offline, and actually, based on your theme, the topic, the crisis is for me is not just only the disaster, but the social issue as well. So I think among our society, there's lots of social issue like in workplace there's so many bullying event issues and like homo like the layoff or by or the baby sister who better do the bad thing to the baby or the little child might be their age just under 1 year old. So I think it's lots of social issue relate to the crisis. That's based on my understanding. So that's my question as well. How can we relate to the SDGs like the poverty issue, the equity issue, and to protect the gender equity. And in Taiwan, we have lots of association about female or female issues to support them to return to the workforce and to support them to have the occupation skills and or the other one is to protect them to have the job sharing opportunity or time sharing opportunity to keep the work and life balance. So I think based on your rich full experiences, what can we do, or what's your experience to based on the handbook or the menu, what can we do for the next step? And that's my question and my sharing. I'm done.
Well, it's my turn, but I don't have a response for Amy's big question. I have a kind of response for Jackie's question. I don't know about other countries, other cultures, but at least in Latin American countries, people is interested to be trained when there is a real actual current disaster, and only for the first 2 months or something around it, unfortunately. We have been trying to prepare people before a disaster, presenting our model in AIF and other conferences of facilitators. And now, after the pandemic, we can offer virtual training, which is very interesting. And we have trained different groups before a disaster, but it is really new. And in our Latin American cultures, it's not easy to get the a real interest before a crisis. We always wait for the disaster to appear or the crisis to appear to think, can I do something?
So I know we're getting close. Jackie, we have done a workshop with the city of Los Angeles's Office of Disaster Preparedness to help do this in advance. And we probably could do more of that if we did more marketing, I suppose. But yes, we could, you could, but the idea that there are municipal or other public agencies who are tasked with this, they might be a useful place for that type of, you can do the training by, here's a conceptual framework. How do we then apply it? So our workshop was not just presenting the model, but it was also kind of a strategy session on coordinating and actually changing the way the office worked. And then Amy, I agree, this has a lot of applications in so many areas. And so what we're offering is this idea of a framework of how to see and diagnose how to be effective as facilitators, and a set of principles so that you act appropriately and don't act like you know it all.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I'm going to
Tim.
invite you to share a thought when we close, but I'll give Basir the last word before we all say goodbye. But do share your closing thought in chat. Basir, what are you thinking?
Yes, sir. As much as we're responding to natural disasters and human-induced disasters, we're also combating disinformation and gender-based violence. But most importantly, it is about, trying to bury the truth. So we have to prevent the truth from being buried. That's why I've changed. And thank you, Anna Grace. Also, your insights on the cultural aspects, reaching out to the community is very, very important, because that's how we are building our equity, respect, and reach. Psychological defense. I guess what the threats that we are against are disinformation, corruption of the truth, hijacking of the truth. But obviously, this is just a new stage in human development, and we'll be able to achieve a whole lot more. And also would love to join your community. Thank you very much. It's wonderful. It's been great. Thank you for all the hard work and your service. Over.
Thank you all.
And again, yes, thank you all for joining, and thank you for sharing your experiences. I've learned so much from this session, and it's a privilege to hear wise facilitators from all around the world sharing their approaches, that actually we did share practical approaches that people use to support crisis in their communities. And I've got that library saved, and I'm going to download the things from GFSC there. And again, thank you so much, colleagues. Thank you, Jimena, Timothy, and Mark from GFSC Global Facilitators Serving Communities, for sharing that with us today. Thank you all for joining. I hope you have a wonderful facilitation week, and I'll see you in another session soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
See you.
Steve, to everyone,
Bye.
and to
Bye-bye.
AIF for inviting us.
Yes.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.